Welcome to the Generation Social Change podcast. This is a message to really let go of social expectations and do what you came here to do. To be able to connect you to your internal power, to allow you to become the fullest expression of yourself, not through the approval of man, but through the approval of God. This will change how you experience your life. I want to share with you where I was a little bit over a year ago. Let me rewind to December 6th, 2023, where I was not in the greatest headspace. I was in therapy 3 days a week. I was really stressed out as a single mother. I had family in my life. I had relationship, but I had no support in either realm of relationship. And as a life coach for 10 years, helping people navigate their emotional trauma that they experience in their life, I found myself withdrawn from the work and really not wanting to be here. Now, I say that from a place of glory because it was through spiritual revelation, through being in therapy 3 days a week and talking about the trauma and the drama was keeping me in the same energy of the chaos and dysfunction. And no wonder I had found myself not wanting to be there. In that moment where my therapist was wondering, are you going to off yourself? Where he cared more about that decision versus what got me to this space to begin with and why was I here in that mental space. That is where my spirit, that is where, thank you, Lord, that is where I realize, what am I doing? I need to absolutely create boundaries, not sit here and talk about how my family doesn't support anything that I do, how they degrade every decision that I make, how every success is tainted with some sort of negativity. And the relationships that I had were all draining me. And then and there, I realized I cannot talk about this any further. I need to create boundaries. Stop this immediately and create boundaries around this dynamic. Not talking about all the trauma and the drama and the dysfunction, but setting absolute boundaries around this experience. And not seeking man or validation externally, but seeking internal validation and source within. Seeking validation from God. And moving forward in the direction of what I'm being called to do. Because the thing that was stifling me was that the people around me would not support what I was doing. Okay, so instead of being in therapy, discussing how much this was hurting me, I exercised my sovereignty to create boundaries between the things that are hurting me, the things that are paining me, and absolutely be done with them. And always turn to God and move forward on my dreams, my desires, what I'm being called to do, what I was born to do. It sounds so simple now, and it really is. It doesn't mean I'm not without challenges, or not without fear, or not without stress, or without anxiety. But it is recognizing that I hold the power, and the power of boundaries around people, places, things, thoughts, feelings that do not align with me. Seeking God for clarity in the moment, clarity in the direction, clarity with whatever challenge or circumstance that I am in, and taking action where I am called every single day, on a small level, on a high level, and everything in between. And doing this ongoing, repeatedly, taking myself out of this. Because how many of us sit and ruminate in the thoughts, discuss the trauma and the drama over and over, stay around people, places, things that are not in alignment with our highest good? And if we really understood that it is a matter of us choosing to exercise our boundaries every single day, and having self-awareness around that. Not looking to man anymore for validation, but looking internally and to God for validation, and taking action relentlessly, no matter with fear, no matter with anxiety, no matter with uncertainty, but knowing that this is the next right action and doing it anyway. It's been over a year now, and I can honestly say that those thoughts are not an issue. Now, things come up where I'm still healing, I'm still evolving, but I create boundaries around things, people, places that are not in alignment, and I always turn to who? To God. And what do I take action on every single day? That which I'm being called to do. And I'm not consulting man, and I'm not consulting my family, and I'm not consulting toxic relationships. I know it's either in alignment or it's not. It's supportive or it's not. It's loving or it's not. And I exercise my power of what is working for me. I want to spare you the decade of ruminating and trauma and drama that no matter whom I've helped, the most important person that I could help is myself. So to think about all the unnecessary suffering that I've gone through, that I experienced, that brought me to homelessness, depression, suicidal ideation, ongoing therapy, just massive dysfunction, lack, scarcity, fear, toxicity, all of that could have been avoided, although it was necessary for my evolution, for my learnings, for my life to get me to this point. I ultimately realized that I didn't need to go through that. And it's an opportunity to learn how I can, through the next decade, through the next generation, go beyond that, where I realize it can be that simple. When I started Life Well Made in 2014, I could have recognized that when my family didn't support my financial success, when my family didn't support my decisions, when my family denied my business, when my family didn't support me in going to grad school or any decision, being a single mother, choosing the life that I'm being called to, because not out of any other reason, but because this is my path, and there is opportunity on the other side of decisions that I'm making for my highest evolution. If I realized that every time I was going seeking validation from my family and never getting it, causing extreme suffering in my mental health, in my emotional health, in my spirit, which was deteriorating my energy, deteriorating my finances from abundance to lack, if I realized that that was their intention, instead of letting them healing, rebuilding, and letting them back in, healing, rebuilding, letting them back in, what I realized at that moment of deep, I don't want to be here. I'm in therapy 3 days a week, and now my therapist is more concerned of whether I'm going to off myself or not, rather than why I'm here to begin with, why I've got myself in this headspace, why I'm experiencing this. I had my own revelation that what am I doing? I'm talking about this dysfunction 3 days a week, locking myself in this energy, staying synced up with it instead of saying, you know what? I deserve better. And creating the boundaries, firing my therapist, creating the boundaries around the source of my pain and trauma. For me, it was my family. For me, it was toxic relationships, where once you create the boundary, it's done. Yes, you have to exercise the boundary. You remove your energy, your attention, your relationship is a gift. And if people in your life do not realize that, they get a boundary. They do not get access to you anymore. And when you recognize, oh, now I can actually heal. Oh, now I can actually take care of me. And that's where you seek God for validation, for answers, for direction, for cleaning up the mess that was created, or that you find yourself in as a result of. Or maybe you're alone, or maybe you're by yourself raising a child, or maybe you're responsible for everything: money, home, decisions, your future, your well-being, your happiness, and there is not another person on the other side who gives a damn. But the most important is you. And when you make the change to set the boundaries and exercise your ability to every single day create boundaries around that which no longer serves you and uphold them, you get to align with God, not man, God. And when you cultivate that relationship with God, not in the space of church, but in the space of you and your inner being and your guidance throughout your daily life, you get to choose, you get to discern, you get to see where you take action, where you're being called, what you're meant to do in the face of fear, in the face of uncertainty, knowing that you're going to be supported and provided for and taken care of. And my God, the healing that has occurred in the last year has been miraculous through the power of God. No one else could do this. Yes, the healing practices, self-healing, and the self-mastery practices that we do in the realm of Life Well Made are super effective. None of that would be possible without the power of the Lord. So now I really understand what it means to be saved. And I thought that sounded so asinine. But I understand in that moment was my salvation, my greatest suffering, my greatest pain point, my greatest spiritual revelation was in that moment of my strongest and most difficult suffering, where now when I experience any trauma or residual comes up, that I can navigate it with ease, knowing that, hey, I'm going to create boundaries around the things that aren't serving me, or maybe emotions that are coming up. Normally, if it's not something new, I seek God right away. And I trust what I'm experiencing is leading me on the path, and I take aligned action every single day, whether that's taking care of me, my family, my life, my business, my career, moving forward on my spirit, regardless of finances, regardless of circumstances. Because when you start to live in this way, you'll realize you have what you need in every reality. And everything is energy. So we want to exercise our sovereignty in our relationship with God, but more so our ability as a human being, a godly human being, to create boundaries. And this is where our power lies. This is where we get to use discernment and higher judgment. I don't spend myself, my time, my energy judging another human being. That is projecting my stuff onto someone else. That is not my business. That is God's business only. So I find that a lot of people in this world are spending too much time judging another human being instead of seeking God. So my energy doesn't go towards anyone else in a negative way. If I have a friction with someone, I set the boundary. Does this work for me or not? And I seek God and I take aligned action. And this is ongoing. And I pay attention to my process. And I want to invite you to do the same. Where can you exercise boundaries? Where can you seek God for answers, guidance, clarity, connection? And where are you being called to take aligned action on your God-given mission? This is your life to create. This is your opportunity to create your life well made. And I really want you to consider this conversation at any time, but in your greatest suffering, that this just may be your opportunity for change. Lots of love to you. I will see you soon.